Welcome to Kiss the Reviews. I'm Bernie, that's Cory, and today we're doing 1989's Weekend at My House.
It's kind of sad that you look like Bernie Lomax when you do that. Ironically, that's what Armando looks when he's finishing up a blowjob.
So we're doing 1989's Weekend at Bernie's. We thought we'd dress up for the occasion because, you know, we both own shirts like this. So this just had a very beachy feel, even though there's dead people in it.
We're middle-aged white guys. I'm 90% sure our entire audience just assumed we own shirts like this.
Everybody's like, I know they got cargo khaki shorts, shirts like that, and they're wearing Hey Dudes.
Yeah. In real life, I pretty much dress like Hunter S. Thompson.
I will say you absolutely do.
Yes.
I, on the other hand, do not.
No. You care much more about what you look like.
These are my funny shirts. So before we get into the cast and the movie, let's do some self-promotion, some shameless self-promotion. If you want to follow me or Cory on Twitter or X, you could follow me at Junior D's. You could follow Cory at Cory_idol. And if you want to follow the show, you could follow the show on X, Instagram, TikTok, etc. at Kiss the Reviews. You seem so enthused about that.
I love it so much. TikTok and Instagram, our game is pretty swell. I'll say that. Twitter, I despise what Twitter has become. I don't even know if we have an account on there anymore. I get on there, I get into a fight once a week, and then I leave.
I look at it for news, for sports news, and then I'm out. So there you go. But let's get into the cast, shall we? Of Weekend at Bernie's, 1989.
Oh, we shall.
So this film stars Andrew McCarthy as Larry Wilson, Jonathan Silverman as Richard Parker, Catherine Mary Stewart as Gwen Saunders, and Terry Kiser as Bernie Lomax.
Kiser? I barely knew. So I had a startling revelation when watching this movie. There were two things I realized. One, I'll tell you now. One, this is a tease, kids. I'm going to save till the end. 11-year-old me. This came out when I was 11 years old. Okay. 11-year-old me derived for about a year. This is when I discovered comedy. And Andrew McCarthy and I, when I was 11, were one.
What about you and Andrew McCarthy?
I don't like that name. We were one. I've never said his name right on this show, and I'm never going to. It's a thing now. I know what his name is. I just can't say it right. It's a thing now. But no, like when I was 11, I adopted his entire personality from this movie, and that just became who I was.
Which is funny because I adopted Bernie's personality in this movie, and I just figured if I pretended like I was dead, I'd get laid all the time and be at all the best parties. So,
as it turns out, you just did a lot of cocaine and stole money from people.
Exactly. So, and I will say that Bernie's mustache was epic. It was fantastic.
Oh, classic.
I'm not a big mustache guy. You want to grow a beard, fine. You want to grow a goatee, cool with that too. The whole mustache by itself, not for me.
Oh, you've made that perfectly clear every time we've spoken for the last 2 months.
Is it possible this story is true? Yes, it is.
And as you could tell, if I were to grow a mustache, I would just look like Mario. So
it looks like somebody took an old Photoshop thing and just like color markered the top of your lip.
Also very true. Also very true. Big shout out to my wife, who's a huge costume person. Like the fact that I had 6 different mustaches to choose from for this show just speaks volumes about her. So props to her.
The DiBernardos, if they ever get into federal crime territory, will escape this country unimpeded because their costume game is on point. That whole family's making it to fucking Cuba, no problem.
You were right.
So let's get into this wonderful, wonderful ride of dead people and stuff. So this movie opens as Richard and Larry walk to the office. They're two low-level financial employees, I guess, at an insurance company in New York City. And Larry's the wild card who doesn't play by the corporate rules. And Richard is like the serious, studious one. And they're trying to do work on the rooftop, and it's sticky and tar and things. Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. It's the classic comedy duo of like, yeah, let's go out and get some ladies. And it's like, no, Johnny, we've got to work. That is literally the entire buildup here.
Yes.
Until they uncover the fraud taking place in the company.
Exactly. And as Cory said, while they're doing their work, Richard discovers mismatched payments as he goes over his reports. Richard and Larry then set off to take their findings to the CEO of the company, Bernie Lomax. And I don't know if you noticed this, but when they're walking to the office and they're like, we're going to get promotions because we found $2 million of whatever. And they're walking through the lobby of the building, right? And it's all business, and people are walking around. Mm-hmm. Did you notice the two guys walking in business suit shorts?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I'll just say this for you and everybody else out there.
Don't do that, it's not good for you.
Hi, literally everybody. If and I know this was at the end of the 80s, we're talking 89. But if fashion were to come back in the business world, listen, business fashion has been the same for 100 years. Okay, nobody's like redoing that game. Okay, a suit's a suit, a dress is a dress, and just that's it. If the new style is like, hey, here's a long sleeve suit jacket with suit pants, but they're shorts. Just say no, folks. This is worse than drugs.
Hell yes.
Those are people we profile in this world as serial killers. It's not race, religion, sex, creed, financial status, none of that. It's how the fuck are you dressed in the current situation today? Exactly.
So they get into this meeting with Bernie. Bernie thanks them for discovering the insurance fraud and invites them to his Hamptons Island beach house for the Labor Day weekend. But unbeknownst to Larry and Richard, Bernie is behind the fraud.
Sad when our heroes let us down.
I know, right? So Bernie then meets with his mob friend partner guys, and he asks to have Larry and Richard whacked and arranged to have it look like a murder-suicide. And after Bernie leaves, Vito decides that Bernie has to be killed instead because he's banging Vito's girlfriend.
Dude, Bernie is a world-class man whore. He can't stop fucking anything. And if he survived for like 10 more years, he could have just been like, I'm a sex addict, and went to a thing for 30 days, and everybody would have forgave him.
So I don't know if you remember, and for the people out there watching, I don't know if they remember or if I'm just a nerd. But back in the day when computers were starting to really become a thing, everybody had them in their house. There was a game called Leisure Suit Larry, okay? Bernie Lomax is literally taken off of the disc, the 3.5-inch floppy that game was on. He is literally Leisure Suit Larry. He's banging whores. He's doing coke. He's got like the big mansion. Like all of that stuff.
Dude, when my parents heard me playing Leisure Suit Larry, it would be...
Were you fucking the table?
I go hard. I go hard in the paint, bro.
After this, Bernie then prepares for the Larry and Richard murder when Paulie the hitman shows up. Paulie injects Bernie with a fatal overdose of some substance and then plants drugs on him and leaves.
Cory's life lessons.
Hi, screenwriters. Uncle Cory here. I know we're in a comedy and this is ha 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 funny. But if you've ever seen a drug overdose death, it is not ha 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 funny. Bernie's got shit and piss all over him. He's got fucking foam and all kinds of white shit coming out his mouth. He looks terrible. And there is no like, oh, we're all rich and don't notice Bernie's dead because we're just enjoying the party. It's like, yo, who fucking died in this house of a heroin overdose? That smells horribly.
No, instead of going that route, what the writers did was predicted the future, and they were like, you may not know who Mitch McConnell is yet, but just act like him for the rest of this movie. And literally, for the rest of the movie, not only did he not piss and shit himself, not only did the body not decay at all through this movie, didn't stink, nothing. None of that. He even had it down to the dumb McConnell face. This thing, like, it looked like he was actively taking a shit in his pants.
You guys know I have many faults.
And the other thing, too, just FYI, mob hits aren't that personal, okay? Where they're concocting some sort of injection for you. He's going to show up and go, hey, Larry, he's not even going to have the conversation like, oh, blah, 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 bang. He's just going to sneak up behind you, shoot you in the back of the head, and walk out the door. That's how a mob hit happens. So,
I wouldn't know I was in church that day in class.
There's that. But when Larry and Richard get to the beach house, they find Bernie's dead body, and before they call the police, guests start to arrive and show up for a party at Bernie's house. Bernie's on the couch with sunglasses on, and everyone talks to him like he's alive.
Larry and Richard here are really funny together. Like the oddball kind of Abbott and Costello pairing, odd couple thing they got going on. I get it. And it's working for it. It really is. Everybody talking to Bernie, some of it was like, I just was like, okay.
Okay, Bernie, I'm going to shoot the wad. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to go 40,000. No?
Is that supposed to be fucking funny? Because who laughed at that?
That guy was more annoying than funny.
Yeah, like my first ex-wife's like family, an extended family, was like super religious, and they'd like watch these comedians that like weren't doing comedy. And that's kind of like the shit, like if they watch Weekend at Bernie's and they're like, hey, let me get your Porsche 45, my final offer. And he's like, duh, duh. They'd be like, ha ha ha, that's the funniest shit I've ever seen. He's talking to a dead guy and they're doing a business deal. Nobody else was laughing at this.
And they don't know he's dead.
They think he's alive, but he's dead, and he's moving, so they think he's alive still, but really he's dead.
Oh my God. So Larry here then proposes that he and Richard pretend that Bernie's still alive for the weekend. Richard says no at first, but then his office crush, Gwen, shows up, and he seems immediately cool with pretending the dead guy isn't dead.
And this is where I shift my, I think, who I relate to the most. Because most of this, I am very much a Larry. I don't want to work, clearly. I like to go out and have fun and drink and party and blah, 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 blah. Totally with that. That's me. But then, like, the girl shows up I've been desperately trying to have sex with all summer long and haven't been able to work up the nerve. And she, like, just shows up, and finally my morals are like, boo, fuck that. Don't need these. No more morality clause. The dead guy's alive. Let's go. That's totally a me move, too.
You were right.
After this, the shenanigans begin. Gwen and Richard enjoy a romantic walk on the beach, and when they get intimate on the beach, Bernie's body washes up next to them. Then Vito's girlfriend Tina shows up, and she's going nuts and yelling at Larry and Richard, and then they tell her he's in the bedroom sleeping, and she goes up and bangs him. And then one of Vito's guys is outside, like, looking in with his little peepers, and he tells Vito that, oh, Bernie's still alive and he's still banging your girlfriend.
Vito, I'm telling you, Lomax is alive. She was with him for at least a half an hour.
I have to say this. I think this is just a fair piece of advice for anybody.
Cory's life lessons.
Hi, people with girlfriends or boyfriends running out on them with somebody else who's running out on you. Uncle Cory here. What are you getting upset about? You know what I'm saying? Like, she comes over to the house and she's like, I'll fucking kill you. I know you're with another woman. Your boyfriend is the mob boss.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are you getting your moral high ground from, lady? I have no partner here. I'm just fucking around, and I've made that very clear. And you're like, I'm your woman. No, you're not. You're his woman, and you're fucking around with me. I'm like 3 or 4 steps away from having a ring put on that finger. Talk to your man first before you come wielding knives. And by the way, when she's like, where is he? And she goes into the cabinets and starts breaking dishes, your cheating spouse isn't hiding in the dish cabinets.
Listen,
you fucking moron.
You may not know this, so I'm gonna bring you into my world a little bit. This is an Italian woman thing. She's not looking for Bern. I mean, he's small enough. He's like a pocket dude, but like, he's small enough to be hiding in the cabinets. They just break shit for theatrics. Okay, that just happens. That's why I didn't date or marry Italian women, because that shit's crazy. So there's that. I don't got time for any of that.
You just turned me into a racist.
But we already knew you were racist against Italians.
Right,
so, but I do have a question, and we've brought this up in the past in other reviews we've done. There is, in the 80s, and kind of spilled into the 90s a little bit, there was a, I don't know if like writers had writer's block or what, but there was this fascination about like dead guys in a movie. Like, they're dead, but let's pretend that they're not dead, or something silly happens with the dead guy. Fine, you want to throw that in a comedy, I have no issues. What's the fascination with chicks banging dead dudes? I'm pretty sure that's not how dicks work when you die, but I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't know what the fascination was.
Rigor mortis only lasts for a little bit, and it happens very quickly after death. So I don't get that either, but yeah, it did happen a lot. And I don't think it was writer's block so much as it was a block of cocaine.
Hell yes.
It's just like, and then the dead guy, we got it. They're carried around. They played Monopoly. They got the strings. He's doing the. Somebody's got to fuck this guy, right? I mean, the dead guy's got to fuck, right?
The dead guy's gotta fuck, right?
The dead guy's gotta fuck. That's fucking hilarious, bro. And after this, let's open a restaurant that only serves seal. That was like the 80s conversation in a writer's room.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And that's probably what happened. So after this, the next morning, Larry rigs a whole setup with wires so that he can control Bernie's arms to wave at people, and Richard is pissed and wants to call the cops until Gwen shows up again, and he's like, boobies! So he tries to explain to her that Bernie's dead, but she doesn't believe him, and we get into the rest of the shenanigans throughout this movie. Them trying to leave the island because Richard tries to call the cops here, and he finds the message from Paulie on Bernie's answering machine. So he's like, oh, we were supposed to get killed. So they think they're still supposed to get killed. And now they're trying to leave the island with Bernie because they think if they're seen with Bernie, they're not going to get murdered.
Son of a bitch.
The next few scenes here of them escaping the island are essentially how, let's just say, in 2023, you start a brawl on a boat dock in Alabama. They wholesale get behind the wheel of a boat, which is not that hard to steer or drive or whatever you boat nerds are going to at me. It's a proper term. I don't care. Suck my aft. But the wholesale destruction that occurs from them trying to do the whole speedboat thing. So Larry's driving the speedboat to start. So you know it's going to be crazy, right? Because he's the wild guy. And he speeds out and he dumps Richard overboard. So he has to turn back around and come back and pick up Richard. Larry does this expertly. He has zero problem steering the boat, turning it around. Everybody's cool. They get on the boat. They tie Bernie down after he's water skied. But they still cannot understand the speed thing on this. They are going so goddamn fast. It is absurd. Parts of me really like this movie. And parts of me are just like, it's so fucking nonsensical and stupid, but not in the fun, like, Spaceballs Mel Brooks way. Almost like in a just kind of, why the fuck are you wasting my time with just bullshit?
Okay, we can wait till the end, but I love spoilers. I really enjoyed this movie because it was so nonsensical. Like, it was a complete mind break. There wasn't a single joke that you had to think about. There wasn't a single situation where you're like, I see what you did there. None of that. It was straight slapstick, obvious joke. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, if you just want to turn off your brain and laugh a little bit, that's what I saw this movie as. And if you go in with that in mind, you'll enjoy the movie. With that said, like, this shit, the practical things like driving a boat, and he's never driven a boat. If you want to make him, because they start doing, he's driving the boat and he's going through the thing and he's going the wrong way. He's almost hitting shit. Like, that's all great. But like you said, in this one little scene, Richard falls off and he's just like, alrighty, we're good. We're there.
Yeah, I guess I want the continuity in the chaos.
Yes.
If you're going to live in chaos, live in chaos. Don't all of a sudden be good because you have a plot hole.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, don't be able to suddenly do the thing. So, I know that's a nitpick. And like you, I enjoy the movie. I enjoyed the first half, though, because it was getting set up as a comedy. And then the second half where Bernie dies, it becomes slapsticky kind of foolishness. And it almost turns on a head. You know what I mean? Where it almost became like you were starting off in a different kind of way, I guess is the best way for me to say that. I've mentioned it before. There are movies like the movie Taking Care of Business with Jim Belushi, which I can't believe I'm referencing again. Right?
Yeah.
It goes like one way where it's like, I'm a criminal and I get thrust into a business situation of mistaken identity and now I'm taking over the company. Fine. That sticks with who it is throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
Opportunity Knocks with Dana Carvey is the exact same movie, but it's all slapstick. And Dana Carvey doing his silly voices to get out of sticky situations. And that works because it's all slapstick through the whole movie. This kind of throws me off because it's half Taking Care of Business and then half Opportunity Knocks. And I wish it would have just stuck with the whole slapstick the whole way through. And I know that's nitpicky as fuck.
That is nitpicky as fuck.
But that's old school Cory on Kiss the Reviews. But at the same time, that's just where I because it was funny on both sides, it just seemed like the movie was made for two different people. The beginning was made for adults, and the end of the movie was made for kids.
Yeah. Well, and you want to talk about nitpicky? Let's talk about nitpicky, because in the one scene where Richard's like, "Oh, Bernie's dead. Let me show you," and he's not there because Larry dumps him over the side, and the kid buries Bernie, right? Which is fine. It's a funny scene, but then the kid turns into the kid. Okay, and let me tell you something. That kid who buries Bernie, like, Bernie wouldn't be the only dead person in this movie if I was in this movie, because I murder this person, okay? Like, that's what I didn't like. Like, you can have him burying Bernie and then showing up at the end as he does to do it again. Haha, funny. This whole, like, I'm a bratty little shit, that I didn't like. That's nitpicky, and that was my one. That was my one nitpicky thing.
That's a good example, though. Like, you bringing up the kid. So he turned, like, they think the killers are there, right? And they're hiding behind the couch, and he deigns to look to see, and the gun's coming around the couch, and you hear the crack, crack, crack of a gun, and he goes, and it's the kid pulling a cap gun.
Yeah.
What fucking guns? Where are those noises coming from? You know what I'm saying? Like, am I the asshole here? Where the fuck are those noises coming from?
Listen, I was a kid.
That's what I'm talking about.
I was a kid in '89. No guns sounded like that.
Fuck no, I wish they did. That'd have been amazing.
So after they take the speedboat runs out of gas, and they got to use Bernie's body to float back to the mainland, or to the island. Back at the house, Gwen shows up again, confronts Larry and Richard. They admit that Bernie has been dead since they got there, and they show her that he's actually dead. And as they're doing this, Paulie walks in the door, empties his revolver into Bernie's chest, then turns to Larry, Richard, and Gwen, and then chases after them. They split up in different parts of the house. Paulie corners Larry, who manages to tie Paulie up and knock him out with a punch. And Richard and Gwen then call the cops.
Cory's life lessons.
Hi kids, Uncle Cory here. If you're being chased with a hitman, and don't think a phone cord and your right hook is going to fix the problem. It's not. You're going to die very fast.
Yes.
Probably before that phone cord touches the top of your finger.
Yeah. And by the way, that hitman, when he runs out of bullets in the revolver, isn't going to go click, click. Oh, yeah? Well, I got this. He's just going to take it out and shoot all three of you and then leave.
It's empty.
That's right. But this ain't.
He is what I enjoyed slapstick-wise.
Yes.
I like it in small doses.
Yes.
So, like, him as a side character slowly losing his mind because he thinks Bernie is alive was absolutely hysterical. And the relief on his face, like, oh, it's over, and he crosses himself.
Yeah.
And, like, then him just, like, breaking down, like, I got this one. Ha, 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 ha. Like, I found his character to be the perfect kind of slapstick that fit with, like, the two straight characters. We just didn't have them.
I agree with you, and especially at the end, because we're at the end of the movie here, because the cops come, the ambulance comes, and yada yada, and they take him, like, the cops got him cuffed or in a straitjacket, and they're taking him to the cop car, and as the gurney rolls by, he's, like, muttering under his breath about, you know, insisting that Bernie's still alive and that he can't be killed and he's, you know, immortal or whatever. Like, it rolls, and again, like you said, it's this slow deterioration of his character to where now he's just fucking a lunatic at this point.
Yeah, he's gone.
And yeah, that part's fantastic. And then the movie ends as they're, like, loading him into the ambulance and then walk away for some reason. But the gurney rolls away towards the sand. It stops and dumps him onto the beach right behind Richard, Larry, and Gwen as they're talking. And it scares them and they run away after seeing him. And then to tag it, the bratty kid comes back and starts to bury Bernie in the sand again. This would have been a great tag at the end of the movie had he not been a little shit earlier in the movie.
Yes, if you just had the one burying scene and then he ran away and then he comes back, perfect.
Yes. Yep.
This is my overall problem with the movie. Which I did enjoy. I understand it's a comedy. It is not meant to be taken that seriously whatsoever. Totally understand that. However,
but you're gonna.
No, I'm not. But in the most basic writing, in the most basic comedies you find, your characters, whether it's a book, comedy, whatever, movie, TV show, whatever, your characters all have one thing in common. They have arcs. Christopher Moltisanti spent an entire 3 seasons talking about his character arc on The Sopranos because arcs are that important in this type of entertainment. Larry, Richard, Gwen, no arc whatsoever. Bernie, no real arc whatsoever. The hitman,
because he was dead.
Well, I did get that, but he's a main character.
You know what? I got a problem.
The literal titular character.
I got a problem because the dead guy didn't have a fucking arc.
It's not like he's not there anymore. That's like saying Patrick Swayze didn't need to have an arc in Ghost, you shit ass.
But at
he's
least
a
he has
character in the movie.
At least he has lines in Ghost. After Bernie dies, it's literally this for the next hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, he's Charlie Chaplin. He had fucking character arcs in The Kid. I don't have time to go over film with you. My point is this. We like the hitman the best.
Yes.
Probably all of us found him the funniest throughout this movie because subconsciously he had an arc. His character was Larry, Richard, Gwen, Bernie, they're all the same the majority of the movie. Nothing changes with them. They learn nothing. Richard works up the courage to talk to Gwen again before Bernie's dead, and then he talks to her again at the thing after he's lied to her. There is no crisis for any of these guys other than the fact that we need to stay alive. Bernie's the only thing we think that's going to keep us alive. So until we get off the island, we can't tell anyone Bernie's dead. That's it. That is literally my one beef with the movie.
That's fair. I'm going to go out and say this. I had zero beefs with the movie. This is a work of comedic art, and it should be respected as such. And, as my mustache becomes unstuck, that's all I got. I love this. Listen, I love this movie for what it is. It's a mindless giggle kind of, you're not laughing out loud and rolling on the floor, but it's a humorous movie with just silliness. The fact that the body doesn't stink, there's no flies.
Oh no,
they don't gotta clean it, like that kind of shit. It's like, dude,
no.
you got this fucking greasy, dirty CEO who has a few STDs. That body doesn't stink or rot. He stunk and rotted before he died.
Oh yeah.
So,
we've all known that guy, and he definitely has a smell to him.
Yeah, 100%.
It's this weird, mahogany, tobacco pipe, and BO smell. It's really weird.
You were right.
This was the other revelation I had about this. I think the movie does hold up, as most 80s movies will hold up if you put them in context, because the 80s were just no holds barred. Everybody got fucked with.
You were correct.
Movies themselves that were written in the 80s were just everybody's. It's like stand-up comedy. We're making fun of everybody.
Yeah.
Period. It was just raw as fuck. So that doesn't bother me. Like the whole you couldn't get away with the dead guy today and all. There's really nothing wrong with this movie. There's no racism in it. It's a dead guy. Fucking it's a stupid comedy. You could totally get away with it today. Yeah. And I'll finish with this. This is how I'll put it. In order to get this movie, we had to buy this on Amazon. It cost me $14.99.
Same.
I can honestly say I will probably rent other comedies before I watch this movie that I own.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
I have. Is it a good comedy? Sure. Did it fit the time? Sure. Do I ever want to see it again? Not necessarily.
Was it worth $14.99? Absolutely not. I will say this. This will be my last point, and then we'll bounce on this one. Going back to your point, like, there wasn't any, like, racism in it. There wasn't any... I would venture to say that this movie was actually super progressive because the murder-suicide note that was left made Larry transgender and getting his operation, and, like, Richard was leaving him or whatever, and he got pissed, so they turned it into, like, a murder-suicide. Yep. So if anything, this was super progressive for the time.
Now he tells me he loves someone else. I can't live with that, and neither will he.
Pretty much.
So, but yeah, with that said, that's all I got. Do you got anything else?
I got nothing. What do you say,
right.
Bernie?
That's all I got to say. Oh my God. For whoever the fuck I am. For Bernie, that's Cory. This is Kiss the Reviews, and this was 1989's Weekend at Bernie's.